Absolutely. Here's Section 1. Discovery of the impossible with a minimum of 700 words. Hashtag Section 1. Discovery of the impossible. The ship Deathworld drifted in orbit above a dead star, sensors wide open, scanners humming like insects in the vacuum. Inside the observation deck, Commander Vezkal of the Threxian Clade adjusted his neural visor and let out a low, clicking whistle. "This can't be right," he muttered. Xenocartographer Yulaz's 3 eye stalks swiveled toward him. "Error in the scans?" "Not a chance," Vezkal replied. "Triple confirmed." He pointed a gnarled claw at the holographic display hovering above the console. "Readings indicate Planet 525 EXN has all the parameters of a Class 14 Deathworld." Silence fell like a meteor. The term Deathworld was not thrown around lightly. Planets were graded by their lethality, from Class 1, which might occasionally sting, to Class 15, which even proximity to would melt ship hulls. A Class 14 was just a half-step shy of cosmic genocide. Even the war-hardened Varkathi species wouldn't colonize anything higher than a 10. Yulaz blinked all 6 eyelids, his voice faltering. "There's no record of a Class 14 with any biological activity." "Exactly," Vezkal said. "But this one? There are energy signatures, orbital debris, satellites, functioning ones, and, get this, ancient city grids. Not ruins. Grids that show active thermal variance." "Life," Yulaz whispered. The word hung in the air like toxic fog. They dove deeper into the data. The atmosphere of 525 AXN was wildly unstable. Nitrogen-oxygen mix laced with heavy particulates and industrial remnants. Tectonic plates collided with alarming regularity, causing violent earthquakes and massive tsunamis. Every continent showed signs of recurring wildfires, ice storms, hypercanes, and floods. Predatory megafauna roamed the wilds unchecked. The microbial life alone, bacteria capable of digesting synthetic polymers, airborne viruses with near-perfect mutation rates, would annihilate most galactic species on contact. One by one, the scientific crew crowded around the console, reviewing the data in disbelief. "Acid rain," muttered biologist Kistri. "Literal acid. Not just precipitation with high pH. This is corrosive enough to melt carapace." Vezkal scratched a mandible and took a breath. The radiation zones span continents. Solar activity from the local star is unusually erratic. Seasons are out of alignment. Magnetic poles shift every few millennia. And look at this, he zoomed in on a landmass. Thermal readings suggest subterranean reactors still operate beneath what used to be cities. "Could they be autonomous machines?" someone asked. "AI remnants?" "Possible. But this signal here." Vezkal tapped a red blip. "This one's adaptive. It modulates like speech patterns." A long silence. Then Yulaz spoke again, barely above a whisper. "We're going to have to send a probe." The probe launched 2 cycles later. Small, sleek, shielded in every known form of radiation armor, it shot through the stratosphere like a meteor. It nearly disintegrated on entry, buffeted by heat shears, rogue lightning, and an airborne particulate storm with the density of shattered glass. It stabilized just meters above the ground, thrusters firing wildly to avoid being crushed by debris from a nearby mudslide. The live feed kicked in. At first, all that could be seen was chaos, gale-force winds, falling ash, crooked structures barely standing amid twisted metal. Then the feed rotated and locked onto movement. A biped. Tall. Armored in patchwork material. Covered in gear made from scrap. The being approached the drone, eyes squinting against the wind. A moment later, another figure appeared, smaller, possibly younger. They wore a rebreather and carried some kind of weapon slung across their back. "Life confirmed," Yulaz whispered, his tone reverent. "Intelligent life. On a Class 14. The room erupted into overlapping chatter and panic. Protocols for first contact on stable planets were thorough. On a death world, there was nothing in the manual. They had assumed it impossible. Vezkal leaned in close as the humanoid tapped the drone's side, then held up a worn-looking device. After a few seconds of flickering static, a voice crackled through the comms, distorted but clear. "You guys lost or something?" The bridge went silent. "Did it just speak Galactic Common?" Kistri croaked. "Impossible," Yulaz replied. "No species should be able to survive there, let alone learn Galactic trade tongue." But Vezkal said nothing. He stood still, watching as more figures appeared on the feed, emerging from behind barricades and ruined buildings like a tribe of warriors from myth. The humans didn't look afraid. They looked annoyed. Hours later, the scientific team held an emergency conference with the Galactic Scientific Accord. The findings were presented, the visuals shown, the data uploaded. By the end of the session, a stunned silence fell over the interspecies committee. "There must be a mistake," one counselor said. "Surely, this is archival footage. Survivors of a forgotten civilization." "No," Vezkal said. "That was live. They're alive. Functioning. Breeding. Thriving." One of the elders of the Vokai Confederacy whispered the name listed in the original Earth transmission logs. "Humans?" Vezkal nodded slowly. "They call the planet Earth. But by our metrics, it's a Deathworld Class 14. And they didn't just survive it, they call a home." Let me know if you want to move on to Section 2, or make adjustments to the tone or pacing. Absolutely. Here's Section 2, Contact with the Apex Anomaly with a minimum of 700 words. ## Section 2, Contact with the Apex Anomaly. The Galactic Scientific Accord didn't waste time. Within 2 planetary cycles of confirming intelligent life on Earth, a diplomatic envoy was dispatched, a sleek, unmanned first contact vessel equipped with a multilingual AI, biometric sensors, and, just in case, emergency self-destruct capabilities. None of the Accord's member species volunteered to go in person. The Deathworld's reputation preceded it. Instead, they sent Unit VXN-4, a synthetic diplomatic avatar, humanoid in shape but constructed from plasmaforged alloy and wrapped in adaptive shielding. It could survive temperatures of molten rock, pressure 5 times Earth's sea level, and direct EMP bursts. It was the only ambassador, expendable enough to be sacrificed and durable enough to last more than a day on Earth. When VXN-4 landed near the largest thermal anomaly, an ancient, crumbling city, its descent was anything but smooth. A hyperstorm struck its landing vector mid-entry, and it crashed through a scaffold of tangled cables and steel before slamming into solid concrete. It stood up unharmed, scanning the wreckage of a long-dead metropolis brought halfway back to life. There were fires. Not out-of-control infernos, but carefully managed signal pyres atop buildings. Some of the ruins had solar panels jammed into their sides. Rainwater catchments. Defensive towers made from retrofitted fusion parts. Then it saw them. Humans. Dozens all around, standing in the shadows of collapsed towers. Their clothing was ragtag, leather, metal, sealed suits, armor with faded logos. Scars laced their faces. Many carried weapons, rifles, blades, even a man with a homemade railgun slung across his back. They didn't approach with fear. If anything, they looked irritated. A tall woman stepped forward. She wore a reinforced trench coat and a rebreather mask hanging loosely from her neck. Her black hair was cropped short, and her eyes, sharp, blue, unblinking, met the androids with the calm of someone who'd stared down worse. "Let me guess," she said. "You're not corporate." VXN-4 took a half step forward. "Greetings. I represent the Galactic Scientific Accord. I come in peace." The woman held up a hand. Yeah, we come in peace. You sound like a 90s movie. What do you want?" VXN-4 hesitated. Its diplomatic algorithm rapidly recalibrated. "I am here to initiate first contact with the dominant species of this planet. You are humans." She raised an eyebrow. "You didn't figure that out already?" She glanced around at her people. "Everyone meet our new alien pen pal." A few chuckles broke the tension. VXN-4 analyzed her posture. No fear. No awe. Curiosity, yes, but more like the kind you'd show to a new kind of wild animal, not an interstellar envoy. May I inquire as to your name? The android asked. Asterisk, asterisk, Captain Ava Rourke, asterisk, asterisk, she said. Leader of Ironvale. Welcome to Earth. Or what's left of it. Your world is hostile, uninhabitable by all known galactic life forms. Yet you persist. Ava gave him a dry smile. We do more than persist. We adapt. You folks just haven't been paying attention. VXN-4 scanners roamed the settlement. Children running barefoot across irradiated sand, laughing. Domesticated animals, canine, feline, even what looked like a small acid-spitting reptile, mingled around humans as though the ecosystem hadn't tried to kill them an hour ago. Food was being cooked over solar collectors. Someone was tuning a guitar on a rooftop. This wasn't survival. This was living. What caused your planet's collapse? VXN-4 asked. There are signs of advanced technology, orbital infrastructure, even evidence of prior spacefaring capability. Ava nodded toward the horizon. Climate breakdown, resource wars, AI conflicts, corporate coups. You name it, we did it. Burned the candle at both ends and then used the wax to build weapons. You recovered. We changed, she said simply. You think we're the same as the humans who did that? Nah. Those soft bastards wouldn't last 5 minutes in this world. VXN-4 transmitted live data to the GSA orbiting ship. The scientists watched in stunned silence as video feeds captured humans farming radioactive mushrooms, fighting off a territorial sky lion, a mutated eagle the size of a small car, and laughing around fire pits in acid rain. Vezkal, still in command, reviewed the latest analysis and muttered under his breath. They don't just survive death worlds. They bend them to their will. The android spoke again. Are you aware that your planet is classified as a Class 14 death world? Ava snorted. Yeah. We figured the galaxy had a name for it. Hell, we probably earned it. You appear unaffected by the environmental conditions. She turned toward a young woman in a heavy vest who was fixing a wind turbine with one hand while bottle-feeding a baby with the other. You grow up here, it just becomes normal. You get stronger. Smarter. Meaner. A pause. Out there, Ava said, pointing toward the sky, you probably have empires, alliances, peace treaties. That's nice. But don't expect us to fit your mold. We didn't climb out of the ashes of a dead world just to take orders. VXN-4 recorded everything. Final transmission from the ground. Report. Homo sapiens. Status. Highly adaptive. Psychologically resilient. Aggression potential. Elevated. Galactic classification. Apex anomaly. Recommendation. Extreme caution and further observation. And the last words from Ava as she walked away. Tell your bosses we're fine. Earth's a beast, but she's our beast. And if you think this is us at our worst, you ain't ready for us at our best. Let me know when you're ready for Section 3, or if you'd like to tweak the tone, style, or add more depth to any characters. Absolutely. Here's Section 3, The Deathworlder's Legacy, with a minimum of 700 words. Hashtag Section 3, The Deathworlder's Legacy. The wind howled as Ava Rourke stood at the edge of Ironvale, the city she had helped rebuild from the ashes of a ruined Earth. The sky was a sickly shade of purple, dark clouds swirling ominously above, yet no one seemed to mind. The storm had been brewing for days, but it didn't matter. They had weathered worse. She wiped the rain from her face, her eyes scanning the horizon, where the jagged peaks of Earth's mountain ranges rose like broken teeth. Below, Ironvale stretched out, a haphazard collection of makeshift structures, scavenged technology, and people who had learned to live with the constant threat of annihilation. It was survival by adaptation, but somehow it had become more than that. The humans who lived here were no longer the soft, fragile species that had once occupied a comfortable place in the galaxy. They had changed. And they had changed because Earth had forced them to. Captain. A voice called from behind her. It was Lieutenant Isaac Miller, his face grim as always, the scars from a previous encounter with an irradiated bear still visible across his cheek. He handed her a weathered datapad, its screen flickering slightly as the signal adjusted to the local atmospheric interference. Ava took the pad and read the message. It was from the Galactic Scientific Accord. "The aliens want to send an envoy to discuss trade," Isaac said, his tone skeptical. "I assume that means they've figured out that we're not just some lost relic from a dead world." Ava glanced up at him, her expression unreadable. "Let them try. We'll see if they're ready for us." Isaac nodded, but didn't argue. He had been with her long enough to know that when Ava said something like that, she meant it. The galaxy had no idea what it was about to face. Back at the Accord's headquarters, the members of the High Council sat in tense deliberation. The species that made up the council were ancient, wise, and careful in their decisions, but they had never encountered a species like humanity. A species that could thrive on a Class 14 Deathworld, a world that killed most others on contact, a world that should have been an environmental hellscape, a place where even the hardiest of life forms had only a slim chance of surviving. Yet humanity had not only survived, it had adapted. It had conquered its environment. "It's unprecedented," said Elder Vyarkal of the Vokai Confederacy, his silvered skin shimmering under the soft glow of the council lights. "No species can withstand what we've seen on Earth. Not like this." The projection in the center of the room shifted, showing images of Earth's surface, burned forests, irradiated oceans, ruined cities. And yet, the humans in the footage moved with purpose, not as if they were battling a world trying to kill them, but as if they had become one with it. "We thought they had perished," Elder Vyarkal continued. "The humans must have been the last survivors of some ancient catastrophe." "But they are not," said Ambassador Saris, a diplomat of the Varkathi Dominion, her antennae twitching. "They are thriving, learning, innovating." Her voice dropped to a more contemplative tone. "We should have seen it coming. Their survival instincts are unlike anything we've ever encountered." "There are reports of humans making technological breakthroughs," said Commander Vezkal, the Threxian leader who had led the initial exploration of Earth. "Weapons, bioengineering, agriculture, all adapted to the harshest conditions. Some of their innovations could make them the most dangerous species in the galaxy." Elder Vyarkal narrowed his eyes. "And that is what concerns me. How long before they decide that the galaxy is theirs to reclaim?" There was a tense silence around the table, each council member considering the implications. They had feared this. They had feared that the humans, these resourceful, determined, and highly aggressive beings, might one day look beyond their world and think it wasn't enough. "We cannot ignore the possibility," said Ambassador Saris. "We may need to take measures to protect ourselves. And the galaxy." Ava sat alone in her quarters aboard the Endeavor, Earth's first true warship in over a century. The ship had been resurrected from old wreckage, its hull patched and reinforced. It was a symbol of humanity's resilience, but it was also a statement. If the galaxy didn't believe humanity had the will to survive, the Endeavor would show them otherwise. Her mind kept going back to what the GSA representatives had said about humans being dangerous, about the implications of Earth's survival. The truth was, Ava had been expecting this. They didn't understand Earth's people, her world. The GSA thought Earth was just a ruin, a place where humanity had been buried. They were wrong. They had never understood the real strength of Earth's people. She leaned back in her chair, looking at a map of the solar system projected in front of her. Earth, as usual, was the center of it. But there were more dots now. The iron clusters, mining colonies on the asteroid belt, had been re-established. A few small settlements had popped up on the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. A colony on Mars was thriving. The humans were pushing outward. They had been forced to do it before, when they had fled from the corporate wars and the environmental collapse. Now they were expanding again, quietly under the radar, but they were growing. They were preparing. "Captain," came a voice over her comms. It was Isaac again. "The delegation from the GSA is inbound. They're asking for a direct meeting." Ava straightened. "Tell them I'll be there. But remind them, we're not here to negotiate. We're here to survive. Everything else is secondary." The meeting chamber was quiet when Ava arrived. The members of the Galactic Scientific Accord sat in a semicircle, their various alien forms intimidating in their own right. But Ava stood tall, unafraid. She was human, and humanity was no longer weak. "Captain Rourke," said Commander Veskal, his voice echoing in the chamber. "We've reviewed your species records. Your survival on Earth, it defies all logic." "You're not the first to say that," Ava replied coolly. "But you're also not the first to try to figure us out." "Perhaps we've underestimated you," Veskal said. "But now the question is this. What role do you see yourselves playing in the galaxy?" Ava's eyes narrowed, and she leaned forward. "We're not here to play any role. Earth is our home, and we're not interested in your empire-building games. But make no mistake, we will defend what's ours." The council exchanged uneasy glances. "We didn't survive a death world just to roll over and play nice with you," Ava continued. "And if you think that's a threat, you haven't seen anything yet." The room fell silent. Veskal looked at her, his mandibles twitching. "We'll see what comes next, Captain. But I fear you may not be ready for the galaxy's reaction." Ava straightened, her resolve unwavering. "We've always been ready. It's the galaxy that's not." Let me know if you'd like to move forward with Section 4 or adjust anything in the story. Certainly. Here's Section 4, a new era of humanity with a minimum of 700 words. Hashtag Section 4, a new era of humanity. The council's meeting had ended in a heavy silence, the kind that draped over a room like a suffocating fog. Ava Rourke left the chamber with a sharp, purposeful stride, her mind processing the conversation she had just had with the Galactic Scientific Accord. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, but they were about to learn the true cost of that mistake. Outside the council room, Isaac Miller was waiting for her, as always, his expression unreadable. He didn't need to ask how it went. He could tell from the set of her jaw, the fire in her eyes. "Well?" Isaac asked, his voice a quiet murmur. Ava's lips curled into a smile that was as sharp as a blade. "They want us to play nice. They want us to follow their rules. But we're not here for that. We're not here for their alliances, their treaties. We're here to survive." Isaac nodded. "And the galaxy?" "They'll come around," Ava said, her tone unwavering. "Eventually. But not because we ask them to." Back on Earth, things were already changing. In the months that followed the meeting with the Galactic Scientific Accord, humanity's position in the galaxy grew more complex by the day. The Endeavor, Earth's warship, had become a symbol of power, its dark silhouette cutting through the vastness of space. The ship wasn't just a military vessel, it was a message, an unmistakable declaration that Earth was not to be underestimated, not anymore. While the GSA had tried to remain neutral, cautioning other galactic species to keep their distance, human settlements on Earth and beyond had quietly started to grow. The iron clusters, the mining colonies on asteroids, had expanded their operations. New technologies were developed, often from salvaged alien wreckage or scavenged parts, and soon humanity had perfected ways to manipulate energy in ways that had been unthinkable even a few decades ago. Ava stood at the edge of a vast observatory on Ironvale Station, looking out at the bustling activity below. Distant ships, human-made and adapted to survive in the harsh conditions of space, ferried goods between colonies. Despite the odds stacked against them, humanity had managed to create a network, a fragile web of communication, defense, and trade. "Captain," Isaac's voice broke through her thoughts. "We've just received word from the Jovian outposts. They're requesting reinforcements." Ava nodded. She had anticipated this. As Earth's reach expanded, so too did the threats from those who had once considered humanity a joke. Rival factions, those who had once treated Earth's devastated world as a forgotten relic, were beginning to notice that the Deathworlders were no longer just surviving. They were becoming a formidable force. "What's the situation?" Ava asked, turning to face Isaac. "There's a new power rising on Titan," Isaac said, his eyes narrowed. "A faction of pirates, scavengers. They're well-armed, highly organized. They've been hitting our supply lines. We need to respond." Ava's eyes gleamed with purpose. Send word to the fleet. It's time to remind the galaxy why you don't mess with Earth. The fleet was ready. In the span of a few months, humanity had reassembled the remnants of its old warships and had constructed new ones, from recycled materials to cutting-edge technology that had never existed before. The Endeavor was the flagship, but it wasn't alone. The Vanguard, the Sentinel, and the Defender formed a powerful armada. The ships were equipped with pulse cannons, plasma shields, and weapons capable of destabilizing asteroid cores. Human engineers had created tools for war and defense that were not just lethal, but adaptable to any combat situation. Under Ava's leadership, the fleet set course for Titan, where the pirates had established their base. Titan was a moon of Saturn, covered in icy terrain and toxic seas. It was a place where few could survive without the proper equipment, and yet, these pirates had made it their home. As they approached Titan's atmosphere, Ava stood on the bridge of the Endeavor, her eyes fixed on the glowing orb of the moon in the distance. "Captain," Isaac said, his voice steady, "we've locked onto their coordinates. The pirates are holed up in a fortified stronghold at the edge of the ice plains." Ava turned to face him, her expression resolute. "Prepare for boarding. I want this to be quick and decisive." The fleet dropped out of hyperspace just above Titan's surface, the coldness of the moon's atmosphere biting through the hulls of their ships. Ava's orders were simple: break their defenses, send a clear message, and show the galaxy that humanity was not to be trifled with. The Endeavor's docking bay opened, and human soldiers clad in advanced power armor prepared for the assault. They were not just soldiers, they were Deathworlders, survivors of the harshest environment in the galaxy, capable of surviving in places that would kill most other species in seconds. The boarding party descended through the ice fields, their weapons ready. As they breached the pirate stronghold, the battle was over almost as quickly as it began. The pirates, while dangerous, were no match for the ferocity and discipline of the humans. Titan's surface, once a place of danger and lawlessness, now had a new ruler. The message sent back to Earth was clear. Humanity was no longer the underdog. "We have sent our message," Ava said later, as she stood on the observation deck of the Endeavor, watching Titan's icy surface shrink in the distance. "The galaxy might not understand us now, but they will. We'll grow, expand, and when the time comes, they'll have to recognize that we aren't just surviving on Earth." Isaac stood beside her, looking out at the stars. "And if they don't, we'll remind them. Earth will not be ignored," Ava said. "We are Deathworlders, and the galaxy better learn to respect that." In the coming years, the story of Earth spread far beyond the borders of the solar system. Earth was no longer just a broken planet, a lost world in the farthest reaches of the galaxy. It had become a symbol, a rallying cry for anyone who had ever been oppressed, anyone who had been told they were insignificant. Humanity had not just survived the collapse of their world, they had evolved, and in doing so, they had set the stage for a new era. An era where the galaxy would have to make room for the Deathworlders, and Earth would never again be considered a forgotten world. Let me know if you want any changes or have other requests related to the story.